How long does it take for your idea of a garden to turn into a magical, beautiful, productive garden? Well, today I'm going to show you how long that takes. We have this kitchen garden that we put together 3 months ago this week, and now this thing is overflowing. So we're going to reverse it back in time. I'm going to show you the entire process that it took to go from grass to garden to loads of harvests that go to the kitchen in 3 months' time. So let's take a look. I'm going to give you a tour inside, show you everything that's planted, and then we'll go through and show what it took to get us to this place. So this is a border kitchen garden. This is a design that I line up in my book, Kitchen Garden Revival. And the idea is that this is a garden that takes up minimal space, but it still has loads of production. So a border kitchen garden can fit right alongside a walkway, a fence line, your home itself, a driveway, any place where you've got a nice natural line in your landscape. You could just put a garden right along the border. In general, these gardens are going to be a little bit more narrow. Sometimes you're only going to be able to access them from 3 sides, but you can still pack in the plants using our intensive planting method. So here in this garden, if you'll follow me here, we've got 3 raised beds. Now each of these goes right along the border and gives you about 3 feet to pass through each of these beds as you're going along. Each of these gardens is about 3 feet wide, and then each of them is about 5 feet long and 2 feet tall. So when you look at each one of these gardens, it's only 15 square feet each. 3 by 5, 3 times 5 is 15. So we're working with a total of 45 square feet of garden space, and yet we are growing hundreds of plants, and I'm not exaggerating. Probably in each of these 15 square feet, we're growing at least 50 to 75 plants. No kidding. So the way we set this up was so that our client can come right out from her home, head right into the kitchen garden, grab some things for the kitchen, and go right back inside. We wanted this to be quick and accessible, and also packed full of herbs and greens and lots of fruiting plants. We did this by creating 3 beds that would line up along this pathway, give her easy access, but that she'd also be able to head through the kitchen garden and go into the rest of her lawn super easily. So we've got arch trellises here that connect both sets of beds, and with that arch trellis, it allows her to have lots of growth and really maximize the space because we're growing vertically as well as inside the raised beds. So the first thing that we did to get this space ready was to measure it all out, making sure that we've got the right dimensions so there's plenty of space to enter the yard there and on this end and then between each of the beds. So we've got 3 feet here so that a wheelbarrow or a lawnmower can come right through the bed space, and same in between the other 2 spaces as well. So we lined this up and made sure that we had plenty of space between the beds, marked off the dimensions for each of those beds, and then we started to clear the area. Now our client here wanted to keep the grass. You'll find with most of our other Gardenary beds, we use gravel in between the beds, but for this one, she wanted to maintain her grass. So we did something interesting here, and instead of just clearing the whole space, we just cleared right around each bed and created a nice little environment for each and every raised bed with some steel edging, some gravel, and then we placed the beds right on top of that setup. So the reason why we use steel edging and gravel is to protect the bed, to give it longevity, and also to put it on an even surface. So each of these beds got placed in its own little special space, special setup with steel edging and gravel right around it. This also protects the bed from a weed eater, because a weed eater, you know, is going to be cutting this grass right next to the bed. So without that steel edging, you're going to ending up beating up your raised bed. And so we want to be sure that does not happen. So that was the next step. We put steel edging around the edges of each and every one of these raised beds. And then we laid gravel right between all the beds so that they're nice and ready to set up. We went ahead and laid the irrigation lines in all 3 of these spots. And then it was time to assemble the raised beds. Now we use the Gardenary cedar raised beds for this project, and these are easy kits that you just simply slide together, put borders on top of, and then just put right into place. We had 3 of these beds set up that are 3 by 5 by 2 feet tall, and they all have this really beautiful trim. Now once we set up these beds, we went ahead and coated these with our eco-friendly stain. This allows us to give the beds a lot more longevity so that they last 5 to 10 years more. It kind of patinas the wood and seals it up so that it doesn't absorb the water and the soil that's inside the garden. So we sealed these beds, and then it was time to put the garden together. So we placed all 3 cedar beds, and we had already done the hard work of measuring and measuring and measuring again to be sure that the lines were straight. So we simply slid the beds all into place, and it was time for the soil. Now, obviously we hired help with this because it was a lot of soil, and we had a little bit of work getting the soil down from this garden space into the actual kitchen garden area. We filled these things with soil, lots and lots of soil. Let's see, 3 by 5 by 2. Each of these beds holds about a yard of soil. So we added about 3 yards of soil. And when the beds were about halfway up, we installed our 2 Nicole arch trellises. So these are trellises I designed years ago. I have in my own garden. And we put these right into place, and then we were ready to plant. So let me bring you through the planting plan we used for these gardens, and you can see what happens to plants 3 months after installing. So first we added herbs along the edges. We've got some oregano here. We've got some calendula that we planted from seed. We've got some lavender. We've got some lettuces that have bolted. And we've got all these peppers that are doing so wonderfully. We've got celery here in the middle as well. We have got some salvia. We've got these gorgeous tomatoes that we added along the trellises. Some of these need to be twined just a bit. We've got this vinca. We have got this gorgeous rosemary ready to be harvested. And then you can see what it feels like to be right here under the arch. So you've got this tomato that's just absolutely going crazy. And you get to see on the back side of these beds, it's basically a mirror image of what is on the front. You can see the rest of this bed. We've got salvia here. We've got some peppers. Look at these great hot peppers growing. They're all kind of intertwined with our flowers. We've got a larger tomato growing here on this trellis, some sage. In here in the middle, we have some smaller peppers. And then we have this huge tomato plant. Today, what I'm going to be doing is trellising this onto the arch so we get it on both sides of the arch. We've got some strawberries, some bush beans also growing from seed that we planted, some vinca. Hello. And then we're going to have a repetition of what was on the other side of the garden here on this one. So you can see these huge tomatoes growing. We'll get these up on top of the trellis later today. And then look at this lush tomato plant. I mean, it is just exploding with growth. It looks amazing. We'll get this tomato tied up on the trellis as well. Then we've got salvia here doing its job, attracting the bees. When I got here today, these gardens were just covered with bugs. It was so like good kind of bugs, bees and butterflies. We've got celery doing its thing here in the middle. We've got some kale, we've got some dill going to seed, some lettuces that are going to seed as well. Some peppers here. Look at this gorgeous bell pepper. Oh my goodness. And then a couple of more herbs and things on the end, and some oregano to finish it off. So you'll be able to see how we planted this 3 months ago, and then how over these 3 months, these plants have literally exploded. They've been so happy in this place and have just filled in this garden in the most incredible way. So with Gardenary, the way we get this effect inside a garden is with the intensive planting process. Intensive planting simply means giving each plant the space it needs, but nothing more. And so as you'll see, the way we plant this bed out is first to plant the border. And with the border, we're gonna add lots of flowers, lots of herbs. This creates a little bit of a natural barrier for pests and to protect the garden from any kind of disease, things like that, that could enter into these more vegetative type plants. So we plant the border first with the herbs and flowers. Then we start to plant the center of the garden. These are going to be our largest plants, and with my leaves, roots, and fruit system, that's going to be generally the fruiting plants. So in these beds, this was generally peppers or Some of our larger plants, our tomatoes, go on the trellis there when we're planting our large plants. And then we start to taper down. So as we go to the outside, because these beds were 3 feet wide, we had room for basically like 5 rows on each bed. So we had room for the border for the herbs and flowers. We had room for that large plant down the middle. And then we had room for some smaller plants to the sides. At that time of planting, it was still cool, so we could plant things like lettuces and arugula and spinach. Now that it's warmed up, we've got things like celery, basil. Some of our warmer type plants are there in that space. So when we plant this way, herbs and flowers around the outside, large plants in the middle, medium-sized plants around it, you end up with this effect just a few months later. So you have this experience where instead of seeing lots of soil, you have this, lots of gardeners put in lots of mulch into their garden. If you look at a garden like this, there's no need for mulch because there's no room for it, right? There's no need to weed because there's no room for weeds. These plants are just filling in the garden, doing their thing, and taking care of one another. Because we have so much variety in each and every one of these beds, we get this natural form of pest protection and this natural boost in production. I'm telling you, it works. And if you're not believing that this could happen in 3 months, just follow this process of an incredible setup, a very well thought through setup, great soil, trellises, and then intensive planting, and you'll see that you can get similar results in your own space. So if you want to learn more about putting together a garden like this, you can check out the video of where we put these beds together, the step-by-step process, right here after you watch this video. And if you want to learn how to garden my way, the Gardenary way, you can check out our upcoming workshop or our free resource right below this video. Listen, setting up a garden and having success like this can happen faster than you think. Our client here has never gardened before. She's calling this her year of growing, her year of starting new habits, and the garden was one of them. And so if she can have this kind of success with our setup, having never gardened before, then I know you can too. So don't leave this video without telling me below how you think this would affect the way that you grow. Tell me if you think your garden's gonna go from a 1 to a 2 to a 3 to a 4. How much more success are you gonna have in the garden on a scale of 1 to 10 because you saw this method? Follow Gardenary, and I will see you next time. Be sure to check out the video about the raised beds, and I will see you on the next video to try to blow your mind again about what's possible when you grow the Gardenary way. I'll see you next time.